Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Untitled Chapter TV. I'm your host for tonight, Stephen. Great to have you all with us. It feels like an absolute age since we've been with you, but you know what? We felt that we needed a little break over Easter. The same way it looks like the Arsenal first team had a bit of a break over Easter because they didn't turn up to any games. Do you know what? Loads to get through tonight. Looking forward to this show. We've got G and Bobby with us, but we'll do some intros in a wee sec. I think what we'll do, we'll play the intro video and we'll get stuck into it.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
So, as I say, welcome back to Untitled Chapter TV and another lock-in. I hope you've all got your customary drink. I have my customary pint of Guinness here. G is on blackcurrant juice and...
Yeah, I'm on blackcurrant juice.
Big grape.
Yeah, that's a drink. Reminds me of South London.
You're right. I got a bit of in there as well.
Is this another one you're going to have to send over to me, G?
It is one of the other ones that I'm gonna have to send over to you. I was telling him, Bobby, like when me and Stephen first met, I used to drink I still drink Magnums. And he was like, yeah, what's that? Have you seen they've even got a new one now and it's called Wagwan. It's not as good as the Magnum, but yeah, it is big as one of those drinks. Like, yeah, I definitely send that over. You know what? I don't know if I actually got around to sending it, did I?
No, you didn't. You were meant to with some t-shirts and stuff, but you never sent it. So
yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
We'll get it sorted. But you know what? I'm all right with my Guinness. So
all good.
Anyway, G, how are you? What sort of Easter have you had, mate?
Boy, you know what? It's good. You know, I feel well rested. Not only did I take a little bit of a break from like obviously Untitled Chapter and streaming and stuff like that, which in a way wasn't really planned. Like we never really kind of set aside a time and said, oh, we were going to take a break, but you know, it just kind of unfolded like that. But I also had some time off work. So last week I didn't work. I took some time off, but it was still really busy. I think like for the first time in a long time, well, it feels like for the first time since I moved down to Ramsgate, it was kind of like the first week I've had off since like September of last year. So yeah, I think my family got hold of me and thought, well, we don't know when you're going to get any more time off, so we're going to do everything possible in the space of 7 or 8 days. So it was full on. It was really busy, but it was quality time with the family as well, which, you know, I hold dear to my heart. It's very precious, you know, to kind of have that time with the kids, with the missus, with the extended family. So yeah, no, it's all good, but I feel really well rested. Obviously Arsenal wasn't as great, but I'm sure we'll get into that in the show. But yeah, I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Back to work today after a couple of days off. And do you know what? It was one of them strange days where it was a sort of day, you know? But yeah, no, it's good. Had a nice break by the time of the family, like yourself. By the time of the kids, went out yesterday searching everywhere for gas for the barbecue. And of course, as soon as I get the gas, it starts to rain. Typical. Always the way. Bobby, how are you? What sort of Easter have you had, man?
Yeah, I'm great, man. Life's good. I can't complain. I'm blessed. Easter's been... I've worked most of it, to be honest. I just had Sunday off. That was the only day that I had off. Went to church, seen some family, had some family over for dinner. That's been pretty much my Easter. Obviously, the kids are off, aren't they, as well? So my house is just absolutely hectic at the minute. So working has probably been the best place for me, to be honest. It's the safest bet, yeah. So, but no, it's been good, yeah. It's been okay. Can't complain. Looking forward to talking about Arsenal because we got a lot to talk about.
Yes,
we do indeed.
We certainly do. And listen, anybody that's watching live, we really appreciate that you're with us tonight. Obviously, I know there's the small matter of Liverpool versus United on TV at the minute. But do you know what? You can do like we do. Have it on the TV over here with the sound down and chat Arsenal with us. So before we get to our first sort of talking point, let's a couple of comments there. We've got D-Dubs in the chat complaining that we're late. We're always late. It's just who we are. Really, evening gents, evening Really. We now know what you look like. So really bumped into Lottie down at Southampton at the weekend. And Lottie posted up a picture and was able to tell us who really was. So we now can at least put a face to the name. And you know what, mate? We'll have to get you on the channel some night. Tommy Asu finally back in training. Finally, some positive news. Yeah, we're going to come on to that in a minute. But I want to start off tonight. And I've just realised I haven't done the share button. Give me a wee sec.
Why have you have the United and Liverpool game on the background? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I can keep you up to date on the score.
Wicked.
It's still 2-0.
Cool.
So yeah, I want to start off with this a little bit of a happy talking point, and that is Bukayo Saka last month received the Premier League Fans Player of the Month. For me, I kind of at times have been critical of Saka and sort of said that, you know, I thought he looked a bit burnt out, but he had quite a good March. Bobby, we'll start with you. Thoughts on Saka getting Premier League Fans Player of the Month for March? Do you think he deserved it?
From the fans, yeah. If it was voted by his peers or by other professionals, or you know, the Premier League one, then I'll probably disagree. But yeah, because for me, he hasn't been as great as I think he should have been. I always think about his ball carries and what he does at the end of his runs, and a lot of the time he gives up possession very easily, or when he's in a position of promise, it hasn't really come to much of late. So yeah, I can understand the fans voting for him though, because he is a fan's favourite, isn't he? But I don't think he's been as good recently as he was earlier on in the season, to be honest.
No, absolutely not. I think it's kind of, I've said before with him, and it's in some ways it's like Martinelli. It's, you know, if you look at black and white statistics of goals and assists, you know, the numbers maybe aren't what you would expect, but it's the other stuff that they bring, and you know, it's that energy, that enthusiasm, that tracking back, and it's the stuff that they do aside from getting assists. It's the same with Odegaard to an extent. You know, people try to compare Odegaard to Ozil, but they're not the same player. Odegaard does so much more than just try to do that final killer pass.
He actually works.
Yeah, it's all the link-up play in between. So, I mean, for me, Saka brings that, but even that, I mean, we'll come on to it in a minute, but certainly over the last few games, for me, that's been missing from his game as well. G, any thoughts on Saka getting Premier League Fans Player of the Month?
I've got to kind of agree. I was a little bit surprised. I don't think he particularly had a kind of standout month. I think with Saka I think like yourself and Bobby said, you know, he is a fan's favorite, star boy as we call him. So I think anytime you know you have maybe a period of games where there isn't kind of like an exceptionally standout player, you know, like a player that scored like a hatful of goals or putting, you know, really kind of, you know, match winning performances, I think players will kind of go to a default, and a kind of default is the likes of Saka or Tierney or Martinelli, like, you know, players that, you know, fans are really fond of. But yeah, you know, I think sometimes, you know, we are critical, because I know even last season I was really critical of the young players, particularly Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and I was saying, look, you know, I love these guys, I love these kids. At the same time, you know, the end product a lot of the time is not great, and they don't have enough goals, you know, in their game. And you know, this season they've somewhat kind of shut me up in terms of like what they're putting out there in terms of numbers and stuff. At the same time, it's like I find it really hard to be critical of the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, because I stick by my guns when I said this, you know, last season when we started out doing this whole Cannon Chat thing. I still don't think we should be relying on these kids. You know, I feel like they're playing above and beyond their years. I'm no football expert, but at the end of the day, I just think, you know, when I look at their ages and I look at when I look at Arsenal as a club, you know, huge club, I just don't. It's lovely that we have, you know, Highland boys and young prospects in the side and kind of carrying the team. At the same time, we're far too reliant on them. So yeah, give him his props. He's for a long time now. He's pretty much cemented whatever position he plays in that team. He can pretty much cement it. It's why recently when we've had our left back issues, I've said that the one player that I trust putting in the left back position was Saka. And I know it didn't really go down well on Twitter. People were saying this, that, and the other, but he's just one of those players that I feel like his versatility, wherever you put him on a pitch, he's going to do a job. And if he doesn't do a job, he's not going to be not for want or not for effort or not for fight. So yeah, he's a marvelous player, and he got Player of the Month. Probably wouldn't have been my first choice, but you know what? It is what it is, man. I'm not going to deny him he's Player of the Month. I think he's an exceptional talent, and I just hope he sticks around for years to come so he can become an Arsenal legend, because I think he's on course to become an Arsenal legend.
Okay, thank you. D-Dub's a very fair point. Saka will get stronger and stronger older he gets. Will be ups and downs, but the development has been through the roof. I mean, you think about it, it's only, 3 seasons really since he's come onto the scene under Emery, and he started off essentially playing as a left back.
He was a left back. He was a left back all through his youth.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was Arteta that moved him out onto the wing. So his development has come on so much. It really has. But yeah, I think the problem is that we've become so reliant on him that when he drops off, we notice it.
100%.
And I think, this is the thing, and it's okay to be critical, and it's okay to say these things as long as you can acknowledge the fact that, where he's come from and how far he has come on in that short space of time. But it's still okay to be critical as long as you're not being nasty about it. It's okay to be critical on things. And this is what we see on the likes of Twitter and stuff. People are critical, and other people can't take people criticizing our players. It's like you have to be blindly positive about every little thing they do. And that's not always the case, but as long as you can justify what you're saying, it's okay to be critical of these players. And I think he has come such a long way that we expect higher. And when it drops off, we get disappointed. And maybe that's not fair, but it also shows the measure of how far he's come, that we're in that position. So for me, it's a good thing. Really, cheers, Stephen. It was great to catch up with Lottie and Stu in Southampton. Saka should have finished that chance early on. Yeah, against Southampton at the weekend. It was a poor effort. I know although shot wouldn't have been so easy for Foster to save. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have talked about how good a game Foster had. I'm not sure that Foster had necessarily the fantastic game that some people claim. I just think that our shots were very poor. I mean, for me, that one was kind of hit. The more you watch it back, the more you see it was kind of hit straight at him. And yes, Foster did well getting across the goal, but the ball still hit him rather than him making necessarily a great save. But we'll come on to those games in a minute. There's something else I want to talk about just before we start to look at those 3 defeats. And that is obviously something that really has mentioned earlier on with Tomiyasu finally back in training. And a player we've been linked with again over the weekend. And it's a player, a personal favourite of mine that I've been calling out for a long time, that I would love Arsenal to sign. And that would be someone to compete with Tomiyasu at the right back. And that's this guy, Max Aarons at Norwich. Now, the talk is that Arsenal are heavily linked and are looking at bringing him in, whether potentially as a starter or whether as a backup, I'm not sure. But it would certainly be, I think, stronger competition for Tomiyasu than the likes of Cedric, although Cedric has done okay at times. I think it's clear we need to upgrade on him. And I'm going to arguably say Tomiyasu is a decent player, but for me, I think Max Aarons is better. G, what's your thoughts?
You know what? It's like the right back situation is a bit of a dilemma for me, because it's like, when obviously, Tomiyasu was brought into the club. I'm not going to sit here and say that, I watch, much Serie A football like I did back in the day, Football Italia, because I don't. Sometimes I barely get enough time to watch the Arsenal games. So I didn't really know who he was, like played for Bologna. I know he could play right back, centre back, etc., etc. His career in our Arsenal shirt has been very indifferent in that, you know, he kind of came in, and I think he kind of hit the ground running immediately. Like, he put in some really good defensive displays, but then he also had a couple of games where he didn't look quite up to the mark. So it's kind of a bit indifferent. The only thing with Tomiyasu, my you know, when I think about wing backs, full backs, whatever you want to call them, growing up and watching football, they were always like really exciting players. You know, whether it's the likes of Cafu and Carlos, you know, or you know, whether it was Lauren, you know, I don't know. I just get this vision or this idea of a fullback and somebody who's defensively strong, but who can also offer quite a lot in the final third. And I don't quite see it with Tomiyasu. I think defensively he's strong, but I don't really see the offensive side of his game. I don't really see from what I've watched. He doesn't necessarily excite me in terms of going forward. So I feel like he does need competition. And at the end of the day, although Cedric has, you know, done okay, because I know when Tomiyasu was injured, I know I was thinking, God, you know, what are we going to do now? And you know, Cedric, you know, for the money we paid, etc., he's come in and he's done a job. But I think long term, I think if we're all completely honest, I don't think Cedric is the right back that we want to compete with Tomiyasu in an ideal world. I think we definitely want a better option. We want somebody who can come in and actually, you know, for me, really kind of compete for that position. I personally don't think he's good enough to be at Arsenal long term. So Max Aarons, I don't know. There was a time when I probably would have said, you know, definitely, you know, bring him to the club. He's exciting. But I just have my concerns about just maybe him defensively, his stature a little bit. But I'm not too sure. The right back situation for me, definitely something needs to happen, because Tomiyasu, since he's come to Arsenal, you know, I know he's had this injury. I don't know what his injury record was like at Bologna, but he's been out for a significant amount of time. Key part of the season as well. We have missed him somewhat. Cedric, for me, I have my question marks over whether he's going to be at the club long term. I know Bobby knows a lot about Cuffy, the young right back that we've got coming up in the ranks. Whether he'll be ready to kind of be in and around the first team next season, I don't know. So I wouldn't necessarily say the right back position in the team is of urgency when I compare it to some of the other areas in the pitch, you know, notably midfield and up front. At the same time, it's definitely an area that Arteta, you know, needs to really kind of keep his eye on. And I'm sure he's got a plan in place in terms of what he's going to do with it moving forward. But in a nutshell, Max Aarons, I'm not sure. If we signed him, you know, I'll be full support of the signing. I'll support him and hopefully he'll do very well. But in terms of, if you were going to ask me, you know, a right back right now to bring in if Cedric were to leave or Cuffy isn't in and around the first team, I don't have a name for you, to be honest, in terms of right backs.
Okay. I mean, for me, defensively, we talk about how well, you know, how well Arteta's improved the defense, but really, and you know, if you look at the numbers, has he? Because you know, we've 7 games left and we've only conceded 2 goals less than we did last season. And you kind of, you look at it and you go, well, is that actually an improvement? But then you see that actually 15 teams in the Premier League have conceded more goals than Arsenal. So is it that teams are just scoring more, or is it just defenses just aren't as good anymore? But I still think there's work to be done in our defense, and I know we're going to do it. We're going to do something. We've already started talking about our end of season show, and I would say he'll be quite surprised with what I've got to say come the end of the season, in terms of not just our defense but our whole squad. But we'll come on to that. So I'm going to remove this picture. But Bobby, what's your thoughts on the rumours linking Max Aarons to Arsenal?
Well, I think we're going to be linked with a lot of players now, aren't we? Because we've got so much cap space, should I say? We've got a lot of halved our wage bill, and obviously we've got a lot of players leaving in the summer. But personally, I don't rate Max Aarons. I never have. I don't think he's the stature that we need for the level that we're trying to get to. Unpopular opinion, I think Cedric's better than all of them. And I think that Norton Cuffy is going to come and go on to be better than all of them and be that right back that may be in that, Lamptey, probably not the Trent Arnold mold, but what I see in him is he's powerful, he's a good ball carrier, he plays with his head up, he's a fantastic one-on-one defender. This is at League One level, obviously, but I think the way that he was promoted up to the 23s from the under-18s last season, and he played pretty much every game towards the end of the season, and then at the beginning of this season, he played every under-23s game, played really well, scored a few goals, got a few assists, and then they sent him on loan. That says to me that they believe in him. Also, they've given him a 5-year deal as well. So I think we've got other things, other areas that are more important. I think that they probably, looking at the left back situation now, they might probably want to look there because we've got a weakness there, haven't we, at the moment? Yeah. But obviously, definitely centre midfield is going to be something that we're going to be concentrating on and up front. But I don't know whether the club are going to view right back as a massive problem. Cedric, we didn't spend money on Cedric, by the way, G. He was free.
Was he free?
Yeah, he was free. From Southampton, yeah. And people forget he won the Euros at Portugal. He's a top level right back. He gets into the Euro squad as well. He's in the Euro their Portugal squad as well. He's a good player. He's done nothing wrong in the time that he's played. He's just not the shiny new toy that fans want. He's a broken down old player, old has-been from Southampton, so he's not going to be fashionable. But he's done his job in the time that he's played. He's actually probably outperformed most of the players in the defence, to be fair, in the last 3 games. So I know we've lost a lot of games, but if we're looking at individual performances, Cedric hasn't done anything bad in any of those games. It's all the goals have come from the other side, and we've been highlighting other players. We haven't really highlighted Cedric and said, yeah, you've done that wrong. So for me, I think we've got much more pressing issues. I can't see us going out and spending 20 to 25 million pounds on a right back when we've got 2, and we've also got Norton Cuffy, and we've also got Zach Swanson, another kid who plays right back. I know he's a bit old, a bit 2022. I'm not sure what his contract situation is, but he's been on the bench a couple of times this season as well. I don't know whether maybe that's just because we've needed the squad numbers there, but but Max Aarons, no. I think if Max Aarons was that good, he's been relegated twice from the Premier League, and nobody signed him. That says a lot about Max Aarons' level. He's a decent right back. He's decent, but he can't defend. He goes missing in games for big spells. He comes up against a really good winger. He's got no chance. He's finished. So and I've seen Max Aarons quite a lot because I've seen him growing up as well. So he was actually a winger when he was younger. He wasn't even a right back. That's probably why he can't defend. But he's a decent player. But I'm just saying, for the level that we're trying to get to, I don't think Max Aarons is going to be the answer, to be honest. That's just my personal opinion. And also looking at because I wouldn't have thought that Tommy Asso would have been someone that we would have signed, to be honest. But looking at what Tommy Assu's got and what Tommy Asso offers, I also think that there's a chance that, and also the way that Mikel Arteta has used Ben White at right back. I think he might use Saliba there next season as well, because he likes that left back to fly on and us to have a solid shape, doesn't he? He kind of lets Tommy Asu come in as like a third centre back sometimes, doesn't he? So I can see Saliba doing that because he's done that for Marseille. So I don't think the right back side is going to be an issue, to be honest. I can see us buying another centre back, to be honest.
Okay, excellent. All right. I mean, completely different views there. 3 sort of, me, I'm all for the signing of Max Aarons. Bobby completely against it, and G sort of sitting on the fence with splinters in his arse. So it's and this is the good thing. It's great to have different opinions, but it's great to be able to talk about them.
Definitely.
Cal Mitrovic to Arsenal, not at all linked, but he's way too good for Fulham and is a good solid striker. He has actually been linked. I have seen a link before as a backup, not as our first choice, but I have seen a couple of papers link us to him recently. But we're not going to go too much into the transfers because we will be bringing back the rumour mill in the summer every Monday night.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, we always enjoy the rumour mill shows. Are good shows.
Yeah.
And hopefully I've got something lined up hopefully for that as well, which we'll tell you more about towards the end of the season. Cal saying, evening guys, been a while, nice to be listening again, good to have you with us. I've always liked Cedric, no secret, RAF tally ho. Really 3-0 to Liverpool. Mane scored, that's what I was indicating there with my little hand signal. Stu, evening folks, evening Stu, how are you? Damn drug test them Liverpool boys. They are playing well. They're destroying United, no doubt about it. So listen, we need to get into it. We need to talk about the last 3 games, and I'm sort of conscious there's a lot of other stuff to talk about, and I don't really want to go too deep into it. And we're certainly not going to sit and dissect everything that happened in the games. So I kind of want to get G, your thoughts just overall in the last 3 games, the sort of the overall performances and just your general thoughts on everything that's been going on in terms of on the pitch, not so much the stuff that's been happening off the pitch, but on the pitch over the last 3 games. You know, how are you feeling after it all?
You know what? It's like going into the international break. Obviously, all of us we were flying high. You know, the feeling around the team, the performances, the league position was really, really positive. And it almost felt like the international break came at the wrong time. Because, you know, you look at the form, you look at the results, you know, bar, you know, Liverpool and City, we pretty much, you know, won all our games, maybe dropped the odd point here and there against Burnley or so forth. But yeah, the mood was really positive. And obviously after the international break, you know, Gooners on the international break did really, really well for their respective countries. And I think we were all excited about, you know, the return of Arsenal and the return of Premier League football. And it's not gone the way I think most of us envisioned or would have hoped. You know, having said that, you know, none of us are naive or under any illusion to know that any game in the Premier League is easy. And we've all said that. I've said that. You know, that, you know, you can look at fixtures on paper and you can say to yourself, yeah, you know, those are the fixtures where we can target, you know, definitely 3 wins. But you just can't say that in the Premier League, regardless of who you're playing. And so when I look at it, obviously we did the chat along for Palace, and that it wasn't an easy watch, seeing us get beat 3-0. And obviously you go through the emotions of watching the game, and a lot of the time, when you're watching a game, you're watching as a fan. You're not really watching it. Like sometimes when I watch football, it's like I'm just a fan, and a lot of the time, the money end of the season, I really couldn't care less how we win as long as we win. So obviously the Palace result weren't great. Then we went to you know, obviously played Brighton, Southampton. Now when we look back, you know, 3 very winnable games on paper. And we've lost all 3. We've not picked up a single point. And to be honest, my mood's not been great in terms of Arsenal. And it's crazy how that can switch so drastically after 3 games. And obviously when you coincide that with, you know, watching other teams who are kind of rivaling you for that 4th spot, pick up points and maybe hit a little bit of form, although albeit inconsistent, but, you know, picking up points, it does all kind of build up into a bit of a frustration, obviously as an Arsenal fan. But you know what, like since the last defeat, you know, I've kind of gone back and I've looked at the highlights, some of the games I've watched, kind of parts of the games, and we were pretty dominant in every single game. Like, if you look at, and I know we don't want to, you know, cry about stats and so forth, but if you look at the Palace, the Brighton, and the Southampton game, I think in all 3 games we had 60+% possession in all the games. We had the vast majority of the ball, and even at times when I thought to myself, we're not creating anything. When I looked back and watched the highlights and watched snippets of some of the games, and sometimes extended highlights, we did create chances. Like in a lot of these games, you know, we, if not doubled, if not tripled the amounts of shots on goal than the opposition. So it's just really frustrating. I just feel like these games were games that, we could have won, and on reflection, we probably should have won. But I just don't feel like, I don't feel like we were at our best in all three games. Particularly, I think, notably against Palace, I feel like they were, they were kind of first to the ball. They just seemed a lot more up for it, a lot more effort, a lot more fight in them than we had. But generally, I think when I reflect on all three games, I feel as though they were three matches that were closely contested, but came down to very fine margins. And a lot of it was to do with the fact that we're just not clinical in key moments in the match. And also, particularly in the Palace game, and even in the other two, there were defensive errors in those games, and in particular goals. So it's not been the three results that I've wanted, looking back at the three games. But I don't think the performances were as bad as I first thought. I don't think the performances were as bad as obviously Twitter and the world of football has reacted to, including myself, because it's horrible to lose a game, let alone three on the bounce. But the performances weren't terrible. On another day, we could have come away with a point, if not 9 points, in all three of those games. A lot of the games that we'd previously even been winning, they were close matches. They were fine margins. You take the 1-0 win against Villa, and so forth. So, yeah, the mood and the optimism and the enthusiasm has somewhat diminished. I have to be honest, after those three defeats. But if I was to look back at it, and now I have, and I've kind of reflected on the performances, I've kind of processed it. And yeah, the performances were nowhere near as bad as I first thought. I just feel like what those performances reflect is just the lack of quality and the lack of strength in depth that we have as a squad. And I think if we improve the individuals within our squad, those are the types of games that we win. But we're just not in that position right now. So yeah, not feeling as optimistic and as enthusiastic as I was, but not feeling as much as doom and gloom as I was when obviously the final whistle went against Southampton at the weekend.
Okay, thank you. Bobby, just before I get your thoughts on the last three games, I'm just going to fly through these comments. Where I forgot to, we've got Stu. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been here. No problem, Stu. Great to have you back with us anyway. Really saying hello to Stu. Stu saying hello to Riddy and great to meet you before the game. Yeah, we commented on that, Stu, that we got to see pictures from Lottie. And we now know what Riddy looks like. And Cal, if we remember back to when we couldn't make chances, this is different. I don't usually get involved in sort of Twitter debates and stuff after matches, because especially when we lose, because for some people there's no talking to them. But someone made a comment on Saturday after the Southampton game about obviously Arteta out, and how it was all Arteta's fault that we'd lost, and we don't create, and that's the problem. And I pointed out that actually on Saturday we had 26 chances. So it's not a case of Arteta's tactics are not creating chances. We can have the conversation about other things with Arteta, but it's not his tactics that aren't creating chances, because we're creating chances. The players on the pitch just aren't clinical. They're not putting the ball in the back of the net, and that's a different story. So yeah, got to agree with you, Cal. Really likewise, Stu. It was lovely to meet up with you and Lottie. Really, I can always count on Arsenal to ruin my Easter weekend, though. So Bobby, thoughts and feelings on the last three games?
Well, same as G. I wouldn't say not same as G initially, because initially I was quite pragmatic about the whole thing, because even though I was really positive going into those three games, thinking we was going to get 3 wins, the second I saw that Kieran Tierney was out, I didn't think that we was going to beat Palace, because one thing I've noticed is what Mikel did with trimming the squad is he's got a best 11. Basically, we've got a best 11, and the rest aren't good enough. Basically, that's what he's showed us, basically, and that's the reason why he doesn't rotate much. Apart from obviously Smith Rowe, who comes in and does his job. But as soon as I saw that Kieran Tierney was out, and he's such a key component to the way that we've, our recent success. Yeah, I didn't think that we was going to win, and I did say in a few of my different Arsenal groups that as soon as I saw that he was out, I did think we was going to win. So, and then when Partey got injured, that for me just absolutely killed me, because even though I've never been his biggest fan, he's been brilliant over the last 10, 11 games. He's been faultless. He's drove us forward. He's drove us forward so much that I've actually started to look at Xhaka and think, now we need to replace your position. Not replace him in the squad, but we need to, once we get someone who's good in that 8, who's more mobile, who can shoot, who can box to box, we're going to be unstoppable, So then when he got
replace who?
Replace Xhaka. In the starting 11 that I'm talking about, we have had this conversation before, Stephen. Come on, we have had this conversation before. You can put that. Yeah, I've always had. We've had our conversations about Xhaka, but let's carry on with my points. So then going into the second game, I didn't expect to beat Brighton, but I didn't expect to lose.
Yeah.
Especially lose the way that we did. And one thing I've noticed with Mikel Arteta now is what he's doing is he's not going away from his system. And this is probably touching on what G and yourself have just said, is that even though we haven't had our starting 11, his best 11 players on the pitch, we've still created, I think, 50 something chances in the 3 games. And if you look at the big chances in the games, they all fell to Arsenal players. Yeah. All of the big chances in those 3 games fell to Arsenal players. I just want to add something as well. Not one fell to Lacazette, by the way. And then with all that, with adding all that to the fact that Kieran Tierney got injured and Partey's injured, even though we've coped without everyone saying that we need Tomiyasu back, we've been doing well without Tomiyasu anyway. So I'd say that Kieran Tierney and the Partey missing was massive. Now then going into the Southampton game, going away to Southampton. If Arsenal fans know that going away to Southampton over the years has always been a tricky result for us. Even when we've had our best teams, we've gone there and lost. And when Southampton have been rubbish, So I always thought that we could lose that. And the way that we lost it was just comical because Southampton didn't do anything all game. I agree with Stephen when he said that Forrester came out of the game as man of the match and everyone's saying that he was great. But all of the shots were straight at him, or they were scuffed, or they were like the one that ESR had when it kind of bounced into the floor and bounced into his hands, but he pushed it wide to make it look like it was a good save. So I think that being pragmatic about those 3 games, really, we couldn't really have expected it to have gone any other way when we haven't got our best 11 players there. The same players that got us to where that we have. Having a threadbare squad is obviously going to be testament to that, because Arsenal have always got injuries, especially at this part of the season. So us getting rid of Maitland-Niles when he's now sat on Rama's bench is one of the things that probably pisses me off the most, because he would have been probably a valuable body. I'm not saying just a centre midfielder, but he could have filled in a lot of positions. He was a starting left back in the FA Cup final win, and he was actually fantastic in that game. So, even though I was massively disappointed, one of the things that I've noticed that Mikel Arteta is doing is he's not going to veer away from what he does. He's going to keep doing what he's doing, even though he hasn't got his 11 players, because he could have shithoused it and gone through at the back, stuck Holding in, like what he's done in certain games to get us the 3 points. He could have started with Holding, gone with El Neni, played a back 7, so to speak, and just let 3 players attack. But he didn't. He wants to try and create a philosophy at the team. He wants to let the young players develop by keep on playing. Saka making mistakes, Martinelli making mistakes, ESR, Odegaard, keep playing, keep doing what we're supposed to be doing, because it's not always going to be this way, So even though I was disappointed, I could see this. I can see good signs, and I can understand that this was one of the bumps that we expected to happen. We haven't had one all season apart from the first 3 games. Going out of the cups, I kind of expected, but yeah, that was one of the bumps that we was expecting, isn't it? We're not going to win every game to the end of the season, even though I did predict it.
It's funny that you should say about obviously him sticking to his guns, and obviously we're going to come on to Nketiah in a minute, but I don't know if you heard the interview with Nketiah today, and obviously it's one of the things he has said is that, you know, Arteta is no matter what's happened, his philosophy is we stick and we keep doing the same thing.
Yes.
It's a double-edged sword in that it's a good thing because it instills that philosophy and instills that style of play. But at the same time, sometimes you've got to look at it. And, you know, this was my big criticism of Arteta last season, and I used to say it quite a lot on the show. And Gio obviously backed me up when I say this. He had his way of playing, and it was the players needed to adapt to his style. And we didn't have the players that suited his style, rather than him changing his style to suit the players that we had at the time until he got the players to play his style. And it's like you say, you know, we very much have that pretty much fixed first 11 now. And when we're missing some players, he's not willing to change the style to suit the players that we have. He wants them to continue trying to play his style. And yes, as I say, it can be a good thing, but there's sometimes you just got to throw caution to the wind and change it up a little, because it becomes very predictable. And when the players aren't capable of playing it, you know, the predictability kills them.
Exactly.
And I think that's been part of the problem, is that the predictability of what they've been doing has killed them over the last 3 games. Everybody's known what they're going to do, but because the players aren't as capable of doing it, like Lokonga is not as good as Partey. He's not as good at doing that role. If Partey was doing that role, it'd be a different story.
Yeah.
Tavares and 34 at left back over the last couple of games aren't as good at doing that role as Kieran Tierney.
Mm-hmm.
And if Kieran Tierney was there, he'd have been doing it a lot better. So for me, it's that the fact that he won't adapt is a letdown. That frustrates me with Arteta. And I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, I'm Arteta out or anything, but it frustrates me that he won't change his style to suit the players that are available, when I think sometimes you need to, because it takes away that predictability. So that's my thoughts on it. And that's kind of all I want to say on the matches. Is, as you said, you know, it's disappointing. It is what it is. We'll move on. But what does it mean in terms of our top 4 chances? So I'll bring this up. I actually made this graphic the other day, and handily enough, it's covering the chat. Cannon Chatter Arms sign covers the Southampton game, so we can forget about that. But with 7 games left, Chelsea away, United at home, West Ham away, Leeds home, Spurs away, Newcastle away, and Everton at home on the last day of the season. I know I haven't got all the other teams' fixtures in here, and the likes of United are dropping points tonight again at Liverpool. But I mean, realistically, and I'll come to you first, Bobby, of those 7 games, realistically, how many do you think we're going to win?
My predictions this season have been awful, by the way.
Yeah,
but
you all have, so don't worry.
But with I'll be honest, without our strongest 11, and I think that we could win every game if we played the way that we played to win the FA Cup. If we played a back 5, and two DMs, 2 holding midfielders, and 3 attackers, I think that we could like, you know, shit house games, you know. But he wants to play the way he wants to play, doesn't he? So I don't think that we're going to beat Chelsea. Man United at home, we could win because the crowd could help him. West Ham away, I think we could win there. We could beat them. They're not as good as, and plus obviously they're in their Europa, aren't they? So they could suffer. Spurs away, who knows? They've shown that they can be beat, but I think that we could win all the others. It's just going to be the Chelsea and the probably only Chelsea, to be honest. Because I could see that we could probably win or not lose at least all the others, you know, because all the way that all the others are dropping points as well. is a really good thing. You know what I mean? So that could ultimately be the thing that helps us if we could get to a position where, as long as we don't lose to Spurs, we'll finish top 4. If we beat Newcastle and Everton, we'll be in a good place. So I don't really want to predict how many games that we're going to win, because you just never know with this team without our starting 11. But I'm predicting now that we're going to finish top 5, and that's it.
Okay, so you're saying 5th is realistically what we'll probably finish?
Yeah, I'm saying 5th. Yeah, and I think that'll be based on other teams, not based on ourselves.
Listen, don't worry, we're not going to hold you in anything, so don't be worrying.
I mean, it could go the other way, whereas this little 3-game bump in the road that we've had could be our bump in the road, and because our boys haven't really been scoring over there, so they could now go on a run in the next 7 games. So you never know. We'll see.
Don't worry, we're not going to criticise you come the end of the season if you say we're going to finish 4th. Don't worry. Jay, I'll come to you. What's your thoughts, mate? Do you think we're going to finish top 4?
Nah, I don't think we will. I said, to be honest, I'm surprised I forgot, but Bobby brought it up brilliantly. When the KT injury happened, and then that was followed up by the Party injury, I was just like, it's done. I was literally like, just the top 4 thing is done. Like, because we just don't have the strength and depth in terms of our squad to cope with, that type of injury. And it was always going to be a risk. We all knew at the back of our mind that it was going to be a risk between now and the end of the season, particularly where obviously the club took the angle to not strengthen in January, hopefully, ahead of obviously the summer. But it was always going to be a huge risk. And it's just crazy because it's like the likes of Kieran, I think, got injured at this exact same point last season. We seem to always get injuries in the back end of the season for some strange reason. So yeah, I personally don't feel like we're going to get top 4. I think the rest of the 7 games, they're either going to be wins or defeats. I don't think we're going to get many draws in. I think the teams that we're playing, a lot of it depends on obviously, our performances, but a lot of it depends on the how the other teams shape up and what they bring to the table in those fixtures. I personally can't see us beating Chelsea. And it's crazy to say that because obviously, you look at Chelsea and, they give Real Madrid a run for their money, but then they got slapped by Brentford 4-1 at home. And it's just crazy how football could just change, from game to game. So it's almost impossible to predict. But personally, like if I'm going to speak with my head and not my heart, I can't see us beating Chelsea. I can see us beating United. I think that's a very winnable game. They are absolutely awful. Probably the worst Manchester United team I've ever seen in the time I've watched football. West Ham, I think, despite their European adventure, I think it's going to be a tricky game. Really do. And I could potentially see us either drawing or losing that match. I think we'll beat Leeds. I think we'll lose to Spurs. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but I do think we will. I think how we are defending at the moment and our lack of goals, I think they will simply outgun us in that match, with particularly with their front 3. I think we'll beat Newcastle and I think we'll beat Everton. So I'm not predicting a top 4 finish, but having said that, I think from these fixtures, I think we'll get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, between 10 and 13 points, which I don't think is a terrible return. It just really depends on what else happens. What are Man United's results like? What are Spurs' results like? I think there are, like Bobby said, I think some of these games are very winnable, and I think they are going to be very close, contested matches. They all are going to be. I don't think many of these games there's going to be one team trouncing the other side. It'll probably be a goal in it in a lot of these games. So, we could easily go through the next 7 games and not pick up any points. But we could easily go, through these 7 games and win them all. So it's just so hard to predict. But I kind of predict a bit of an indifferent end of season. I think we'll either win or lose some of these games, and I predict probably somewhere between around 10 to 13 points picked up along the way. But I'm with Bobby. 5th or 6th is where I see us potentially finishing. Anything below that, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Anything above 5th or 6th, then boy, last game of the season is going to be one hell of a piss up.
It's oddly enough, I think it's Newcastle and Everton I'm more worried about than I am maybe some of those other games. So, like I said, I think I have a feeling we might get a draw tomorrow night at Chelsea. I think we can beat United at home. I think we can beat West Ham. I think we'll beat Leeds. Spurs, potentially a draw, but Newcastle and Everton, I think, are potentially the ones that will trip us up.
Could be.
Newcastle are on a good run, and all of a sudden they're starting to look like not a great team, but they're starting to look like a stronger team who are actively looking to advertise their product to big name players now coming into the summer. So they need to finish as high as they can to sort of show that they're on the up. And Everton, Everton could be going into the last game of the season needing to win to stay in the league. We just don't know. So it's interesting. I'm like yourselves. I don't think we'll finish top 4. I think probably 5th or 6th. I wouldn't like to say 7th. I'd be very, very disappointed if it was 7th, but it could easily happen. All right, we'll go to some of these comments very quickly from Riddy. What do you guys think about Tyreek Mitchell as a possible summer target given our issues at left back? Just a quick yes or no, Bobby.
We should have got him before he signed his deal. He's just on a 4-year deal for Crystal Palace. He didn't, and he was waiting as well. I think he was waiting for offers, but no one came in through him. We signed Nuno Tavares, so I think we missed the boat now because he's got an England cap now, so he's going to stay at Palace because he's playing, developing. He'll be advised to stay there and make the next big move because he'll probably kick on over the next couple of years because he's a fantastic young player.
And if anybody wonders why I said that the 3 big personalities that are going to talk a lot tonight, that's exactly why. When I said, give us a yes or no, Bobby. Jay, yes or no, Tyreek Mitchell?
Oh, right.
I'll take him. I'll take him all
now, so
I take him all day, every day. The problem is that we've got Tavares, so it all's going to depend on what we do with Tavares, in that left back situation. But yeah, he's a quality player, and we all know Crystal Palace play hardball, especially Vieira. He's not just going to give away, he's just not going to give him to us for nothing. We've seen the whole Zaha saga, so the fact that he's got 4 5-year contract, it's curtains for me. So I can't see it happening, but I'd take him tomorrow. Okay.
For me, very quickly, I haven't watched enough of him. I did see him in his England debut, and I remember saying in our group chat, who is this guy? He looks like a competition winner. For me, he looked completely out of place, but that's just personal thought. Anyway, Adams Qualo. Hello, I think that's a new name to the chat. Evening, how are you? Good to have you with us. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Jamie, evening. Holding 65, Elneny 11, ESR 120, and Kelly 163, Pepe 156, 1 goal. Tavares 5, Sambi 19, Martinelli 49, includes stoppage time were mentioned in match report. Substitutes Premier League minutes since 1st of January. Right, so our subs aren't getting an awful lot of minutes. But then you kind of don't expect the subs to get an awful lot of minutes, so
because they're all rubbish.
Arsenal analysed, that is Jake,
Jake.
Yeah, Jake, it is Jake. Evening, Jake, how are you? Kyle, interesting points in the formation team. Really, we are so easy to play against, especially after we concede. Flat back 5 and a 4-man midfield in front of them, forcing us to go sideways with no central penetration. BX Gunner 81, saying a load of Riddy. Evening, BX Gunner 81, 7. I think you're saying 7 points in 7th place.
Yeah.
It's not inconceivable. Really saying hi to BX. Finished 4-0 at Anfield. Meanwhile, Fulham's promotion back to the Premier League is now confirmed. And don't forget, we are due a 34 moment. We'll come on to that shortly. All right, so we'll move on. Let's move away from 3 defeats and top 4 chances and stuff. I've timed this sort of to the match was over because I knew more people would start to join us, and this is sort of where the conversation's been over the last couple of weeks, almost more so than the matches themselves. We're in the PR time, and players are getting their PR out because obviously they're looking their moves and or looking new contracts, looking to see what's going to happen at the end of the season. And it's quite unusual for Arsenal players to give interviews. It's not something that's wildly done. And generally, I mean, I've said before that I know that there's someone from within the club watches this channel. And I know this because I've talked to them. And I asked them to come on. And they told me that they couldn't, that they weren't allowed to because the club basically didn't allow this. So it's interesting that all of a sudden the club are allowing, players to have these interviews. And I'm going to go in reverse order, and we're just going to sort of talk through basics of what they've said and how you feel about the things that they're coming out with. But before I do that, a couple more comments. Really, Stephen, I like your optimism, but where are the goals coming from? Good question. BXC 1, maybe 2 wins, and the rest losses and draws. Okay. Big Mike's, yes, lads, big up. Do you think we should give Reece Nelson another chance next season? No. Personally, no.
No chance.
Well, it looks like you two are in agreement. So, all right. Let's start with Eddie and Kedia. So Eddie and Kedia did an interview today. It was an hour long. I don't know if you guys have a chance to watch it. I kind of fast forwarded through some of the key points and stuff. Basically, the main thing from it was he says he just wants to play more. And I talked about this earlier in the season, that if he genuinely wanted to play, why didn't he go to Palace last summer? When he would have been first choice starter before they signed Edouard and things like that. For me, he was holding out for the money. I've never been a massive fan of him, and I said in our chat the other day, Eddie has this thing, you call Eddie. I think the only thing Eddie was doing with his phone on Saturday was playing Candy Crush because he wasn't doing much else. I mean, what's your thoughts on Eddie, Bobby? Do you think he's someone that we should actually look at building a team around, or is it good riddance in the summer?
No, it's definitely someone. I remember he got released from Chelsea. We took him as a scholar, and I think that basically he came to Arsenal at a time when we handed out big contracts, and obviously to 2 strikers that meant that we didn't really want to buy another striker. So he's just been kind of left there, hasn't he? And then because he's at Arsenal, his stock's going to be a lot higher on the market. So he's played his hand well. Fair play to him. He's going to get himself a nice big contract when he leaves us at 23, which he's probably been advised really well. But yeah, I wouldn't say good riddance because I like the boy. He's got a good attitude. He's a good kid. I haven't seen his interview. I haven't had time to watch it, but yeah, I don't dislike Eddie Nketiah. I just don't think he's anywhere near as good enough for Arsenal to build a team around. But I think he should have got maybe a few more minutes. I think maybe he should have come on in the 60th, 70th minute a few more times in Premier League games when Lacazette looks like he's blowing out of his arse. That should have definitely happened. So I understand him there because him and Lacazette are both in the same contractual situation. And even though I know Lacazette's game probably hasn't been judged on goals by the management, which is why he always starts because he does something else, I don't think that Eddie can do that job. I don't think that he can drag centre halves because I don't think he's strong enough. I don't think he's clever enough. I don't think he's cute enough. So that's probably why he hasn't got any minutes. And to be fair, in our good run, Lacazette played pretty much every minute. So he wouldn't have got any minutes at that time. And obviously we had Aubameyang before, so we definitely wouldn't have got any minutes when those two were there. So yeah, I don't dislike the boy, but yeah, I'll be interested to see what he does when he leaves us because I've got an idea that he's not going to do anything. I think he'll probably end up back at a Championship team or something, or he might do well if he goes to the Bundesliga or something. I've heard that he's signed a pre-contract with Leverkusen or one of them teams. I think I'm not sure. So
Right. Okay.
See what happens.
I have not. I know he's been linked with some of the German clubs, but I haven't heard he'd signed a pre-contract with anybody. G, your thoughts on Eddie Nketiah? And obviously, you didn't see his interview today, but
yeah, I saw clips of it. With Eddie, you know what it is. Anytime there is a somewhat exciting prospect coming through, the youth, system, I always want him to do well. I always get kind of excited because I think there's nothing better than having, a young player, even though we got him from Chelsea or whatever when he was young, but it's always nice to see, a player scoring goals at youth level, international, England under 21s record goal scorer. And I've always wanted him to, be able to kind of transition and kind of hit that form and get those goals, in an Arsenal shirt for the first team. But it's not quite happened. I just think it comes down to the fact that he's just not good enough. He's just not good enough to play for Arsenal. All this stuff about calling Eddie and he'll score. He needs to call and find out where the coordinates are to score a goal, because, bruv, it's just useless. Now, in all honesty, I've got to that point now with him and some of these Arsenal players where I just think to myself, he's sitting down there and he's saying, he wants game time, he wants to play football, and I completely understand that and I respect that. And if he turns down a supposedly contract that's on the table from Arsenal, I have no idea why Arsenal are offering a contract other than to protect his value and sell him on anyway. If there's any other rationale to offering him a contract than that, then somebody needs their head tested, because I don't know why you'd want to keep him at the club long term other than to protect his value. So for me, he's just not good enough. And he's sitting there and he is saying he wants to play football and so forth. And like I said, I respect that. I give him his dues, but that's not going to happen at Arsenal Football Club. He's not going to get game time here because he's just not good enough. He's playing very minimal minutes right now because, quite frankly, we don't have a choice. We've got a centre forward that can hold up the ball and is a really great role model, but doesn't know where the goal is either. And we're having to call on Eddie basically because he's knackered. And it's just the fact that Arteta has no other plan B, no other option. It's just insane why he's not going to Pepe. I have no idea, because I think Pepe offers a lot more than Eddie does. But yeah, you know what? Good luck to him. If the season could end tomorrow, which would mean Eddie would leave the club sooner, I'd gladly have the season end tomorrow. Because for me, it's just boring. Like I see him on this. That's one of the reasons why I didn't even watch it, because I just thought I don't even have any interest in what he's got to say about his Arsenal career, because I don't see him having a future at the club. So, sign for Leverkusen, sign for whoever you want. The sooner you're not putting on an Arsenal shirt and we're not relying on you to get a goal, the better off we'll be.
Okay. Strong words. So you both sort of touched on somebody else there, obviously, while we were talking about Nketiah, and obviously the comments came out yesterday from Lacazette. And here we have a picture of Lacazette, and I can only assume he's seen his name on the team sheet again, and even he's surprised at how he's on there.
Bobby's gearing up now. Bobby's gearing up.
G, we'll let you go first.
I was drinking my Guinness actually.
I'll go first, and you know what? I'm gonna be as fair as possible. Okay. So, right, I'll start from the beginning. So, I think first of all, I'm going to say I think I'm a gullible Arsenal fan, very gullible, because we're linked with players, and I think I just get excited. I saw Lacazette doing the business in the French league for Lyon, and for me, he looked like a stone cold killer in front of goal. He was doing really well. We signed him, and to be honest, I was excited about the signing. And like I said, I think with all Arsenal signings, as much as I might not be massively in favour of it, once they hold up the shirt and stuff, I'm really excited. But with him, I was genuinely excited that we were getting a good centre forward. Didn't really bat an eyelid at the 55 million price tag that he came with. I thought, in an Arsenal shirt with the way we play football, this guy is going to bag. For me, he's not personally lived up to my expectations. He's not been the striker that I thought he was going to be in terms of goal return. So when I look back on his Arsenal career, because I do feel like he will leave this summer, I don't think he's going to be offered a new contract, and I think his mind is elsewhere at this point. I would look back at his Arsenal career indifferently. In that I don't think he's lived up to expectations in terms of goal return, but I wouldn't necessarily say that his career's been a complete flop either. So I'm a bit kind of in between. What I will also say on the positive is that I think he has played and is playing a very vital role within this Arsenal side this season. And the reason why I say that is because we do have a very young squad, the youngest squad in the Premier League. And at the end of the day, we have had a massive clear out, of what we could call somewhat, bad role models, people that are not, players that are not necessarily good for the culture of the club or for the squad morale. Let's just say that we've had a bit of a clear out. So we can't clear out all the experienced, seasoned professionals at one time, because that would just be absolute crazy. And he is a very good role model. He's very professional. And, he does have leadership qualities, which is why he's club captain at the moment. And that has played a very, very important part, in this Arsenal side. Also, he offers a lot on the pitch in terms of his build-up play, in terms of bringing in, the younger players, the wingers, etc. Link-up play. There's a lot of things you can say that it's good about Lacazette. The problem I have with Lacazette is, last time I checked, he's a striker. Yeah. And for me, I understand the argument that people say, well, he's not in the team for goals. And for me, I don't quite get that, because for me, yes, he might not necessarily be the player that as far as I'm concerned, he's a striker, so he should be scoring goals. So for me, 6 goals in a season, 4 league goals, being outscored by Marcus Rashford, who is, off, dealing with school dinners, and someone like Chris Wood, who plays for Burnley and Newcastle's got 1 more goal than him. For me, that's a poor return. This guy has played 30 plus games and returned 6 goals. If you actually look at that in reflection with other players that we've mocked and criticized over the years, or what Arsenal fans have called flops, the likes of Bentner, the likes of Shamak. If you actually look at the career stats of Bentner and Shamak, when they've played in more than 20 plus games a season, they've outscored him. They've actually outscored him. So I don't understand how we can look back at their careers and mock it and laugh and say what flops they were and awful players they were and how they wouldn't get in this team when we've got a striker on our hands that can't outscore Shamak or Bentner. That's an issue for me. That's a massive issue. And I don't feel like, as an Arsenal fan, it's unfair to look at a team that lacks goals and say to ourselves, well, actually, the lack of goals could be down to the point that we have a striker that can't score. Now, I know people will say, well, he's not had chances. And I think a lot of that is to do with him as a player, his positions, where he is on the pitch, not getting in the right areas. So I am very critical of him, because I just feel that his goal return is shocking for a Premier League striker at this level. And the fact that he's gone out, he's done his interview, he's obviously speaking, to other teams. He's probably signed a pre-contract somewhere. And I wish him all the best of luck. I don't have anything against him as a person. I think he's served us for however many years, but it's definitely time to move on. He's talking about missing the Champions League. I don't know what he's going to go and do in the Champions League. I honestly don't. You can't even bag more goals than Pukki, who plays for Norwich, who's bottom of the league, but you want to go and listen to Champions League music to what? To do a little shuffle on the touchline? Because I don't understand what he's going to be doing in the Champions League. He's not a Champions League player. He's not a top 4 striker. He's probably not even a top half of the table striker, in my opinion. So he gives everything. He works hard. He's a great role model. but he's not a first-team starter for Arsenal or any top side in any European league for me, because he just doesn't get enough goals. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. We'll get your thoughts in a wee second. Bobby, just a couple of quick comments. Really saying, pretty sure we'll struggle to score against the poor Manx side on Saturday. More chance of them nicking a goal on the counter. Okay. I'm also saying, I think some of Laka's comments were twisted by the media. Having said that, how can he think of scoring against the Madrids when he can't score against Burnley and Brighton? Bobby, I know you've been sitting patiently waiting for your chance to talk about Laka. Take it away.
Well, I've not necessarily been waiting to talk about Laka per se. I feel about Laka like I do about Xhaka, to be honest. I feel like he needs to be defended. It's just as simple as that. He's an Arsenal player. I think he gets too much unnecessary stick. And I think he gets a lot of unnecessary stick from people that don't really understand the game. Because if you're now going to start destroying Laka for his lack of goals, but you're not going to say anything about the people who have been scoring to get us where we are, who have now stopped scoring, I find that really strange. But going back to Laka, when we signed him, he was never... I heard G say that he was this killer in France. He was never a killer in France, because all the killers in France didn't stay at Lyon for 7 years. They got signed by other big European teams. So I think Lacazette made his debut when he was like 17. He stayed in the team as a winger. He was always a winger. But his body build is kind of like he's more of a number 9, one of those number 9s that stays up front and doesn't really move anywhere. When Arsene Wenger bought him, it was more because we was coming to the end of Giroud, and Lacazette was coming to the end of his contract at Lyon. So that's kind of why we signed him. But then, if you notice, as soon as we signed him, Wenger quickly noticed that he wasn't going to be the prolific goal scorer that he thought he was getting, or that he was in France, because 6 months later he bought Aubameyang. So that's something that people don't seem to realise. Wenger, our greatest ever manager, realised that Lacazette was never a great goal scorer because he went out and bought Aubameyang, who was the great goal scorer. Then Aubameyang went on to do what? Become the top scorer in the Premier League, and nobody didn't say anything bad about Lacazette because Lacazette helped provide a lot of those goals. Lacazette still chipped in with his 15 goals this year. So I don't think he's ever scored more than 15 goals for Arsenal. But one thing that Lacazette has always been in every system that he's played in all of his Arsenal career is he's been the last man. He's never been that guy that goes on the wing. He's never been that guy that goes in the 10. He's always the last man. Aubameyang's always gone out to the wing, or Aubameyang will be that second striker that goes on the back post. But Lacazette is always that guy who's central. He's never been amazing. He's never been the top goal scorer in the Premier League. But last season, he actually outscored Aubameyang after Aubameyang was getting paid 300 grand a week. And he actually played less minutes than Aubameyang last season. So I don't really understand the hate that he's getting, because he's not doing anything different to what he's always done in his Arsenal career. I've never been his biggest fan, I'll be honest. I've always been a case of, why did we sign him? Because I didn't want to sign him when we did. I didn't want to sign Aubameyang either, because I thought there was a lot of better strikers out there that we could have gone at, that were more prolific, that were more dynamic, that were more in the mould of the Armories and the Edwards and the Van Persies, the type of strikers that we did have. I wasn't a fan of Lacazette. He wasn't even getting in the French team. So for me, I'd never ever wanted him. But since he's been here, and especially under Mikel Arteta, if you notice, Mikel Arteta's got rid of the people that he doesn't want in the club. Now, a lot of people have gone, and Lacazette's still here. Not only is he still here, but he's now changed his role. We've all seen what's happening. We've all seen what's going on in the world of football now. Number 9s are being killed. That's why we're all going so crazy for Haaland. Think about how many other great number 9s there are in world football. There isn't any. Even Darwin Núñez was a winger. Vlahovic has just come out. He's 21. In the Premier League, we've had Vardy. He's in his 30s. Even Cristiano Ronaldo was a winger. So all the great number 9s. It's an art form that's not really. All the best strikers, the top goal scorers in the Premier League list have all been wingers over the last 10 years. You like Salah's, those are the kind of players that we've got. And so it looks to me like that's the kind of football that Mikel Arteta wants to play. Hence why Lacazette spends 90% of his game probably like 5 yards away from Xhaka. So how he's supposed to be scoring from there? Yeah, we know he's a striker. Okay, but he's not playing the striker role. I'm a coach, so I know that. I don't think Mikel Arteta expects him to score loads of goals in exactly the same way. I don't think that Klopp expected Firmino to score loads of goals. I think he expects Mane and Salah to score loads of goals. And when I look at all the big chances that he's missed this season, the big chance he missed against Wolves, the chance he missed against Burnley, and the big chance he missed against, what was the other game? Was that in we won at home against Brentford. We missed. Those are the 3 big chances that I can clearly remember. We won all of those games. All the big chances that I've already touched on this before. The big chances that we've created recently, Lacazette's always about half a mile away from the goal. And G touched on this before, because he's physically not able to do that, but he's physically never been able to do that. Hence why Wenger used to get him and stick him up top, because if you get a chance up there, you're more likely to score. You can't run around because physically, that's why I bought Aubameyang. He's going to do all that. That's why Mikel Arteta has Martinelli, Saka, and ESR. The fact that they're so young, I mean, if you think about it, them 3 have not long come out of academy football. And G touched on it earlier. We've put so much pressure on them. We expect them to do really well. And over the first part of the season, we were scoring a lot of goals. And we were scoring a lot of goals because they were scoring. But young players aren't going to be consistent for a whole season. But I think Lacazette has been consistent for a whole season, because he's just consistently done the job that Mikel Arteta has asked him to do. Yes, us fans, well, some fans want him to score loads of goals because he's a striker, but his manager is asking him to do something different, whilst other players around him aren't doing their jobs. Martin Odegaard hasn't been doing his job. Saka's not been doing his job because he hasn't been scoring as much. Even though he has been carrying the team, he hasn't been scoring and creating as many chances. Martinelli's dropped right off. Obviously now Partey's got injured. KT's not there. So, but Lacazette's still there and he's still doing his job. But now we're not winning. Who are we going to blame? Everyone stopped blaming Xhaka now for some reason. So Arsenal fans have got this thing where I've been an Arsenal fan for years. We always blame someone. Lacazette's that person because he's not scoring. He's never scored. I just don't get it. You don't understand. He's never scored goals. Mikel Arteta doesn't want him to score goals. Yeah, the fans want him to go out and score 20 goals a season. You want him to be Vardy and run through 4 players and be in the right places, but he physically can't. He's overweight in the Premier League at the top level. You expect Lacazette to be what, like Gabriel Jesus, to be deep, drag defenders, and then run up to centre forward. It's just it doesn't make any sense why Lacazette's getting so much stick for me. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say about it, to be honest. Because I have touched on it so much with so many different people in so many different facets. I don't want to go on about it too much, but that is basically the point for me. Mikel Arteta's asking him to do a job, which I think that he's getting from him. All the Leon, I didn't actually see the interview, and I didn't see any snippets from it or anything. But what I did do is read a lot of the responses to it. And I think people forget that Lacazette played in the Champions League for 6 years on the trot. Now, if you're saying he's not a Champions League striker, what is a Champions League striker? Champions League has 38 teams in. There's 8 elite teams. There's 30 shit teams. What's a Champions League striker? There's 30 shit strikers. There's 8 good strikers. What's a Champions League striker, please? What does a Champions League striker look like? Lacazette's been in that competition.
Not Lacazette.
Well, what does look like a Champions League striker? Because I can guarantee you, Lacazette's better than 30 of the strikers that are currently playing in the Champions League, if that's what you want to say the Champions League striker is. So for me, it's not about the Champions League's your level. He's been there before. He came from Lyon that won the league pretty much every year until PSG got their oil money. So he's been used to playing Wednesday night and at the weekend for his career. So if he wants to go back to that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with a player saying they want to go to Champions League. If he's not been scoring for Arsenal, does that mean that he's not a valuable player for a Champions League team, or that means that he shouldn't want to go to the Champions League? I don't quite understand why he's getting so much stick, but I do understand why he's getting so much stick, because we're not winning any games. I guarantee you, if we'd have won the last 3 games, no one would be saying anything about Lacazette, because he scored 4 goals all season. that is a fact. I've been watching us do it to our players for the last 10 seasons. It's what we do. It's what Arsenal fans do.
In terms of Lacazette, when you said like he's never scored goals, I beg to differ.
No, what I'm saying, he's never scored goals for Arsenal. He scored goals.
Okay.
He scored goals, but Leon didn't win.
For me, when he was at Lyon, when I say Stone Cold Killer, I meant it because I see this. I used to watch him at Lyon, and I see this guy. I think in the last 4 seasons at Lyon, he scored 20 plus goals a season. I think in the season before he signed for Arsenal, he scored 37 goals in 45 games for Lyon.
He was a penalty taker.
It was but he scored goals in the last 4 seasons at Lyon. He scored.
What you do?
I think it was 120 goals in 4 seasons.
What you do at Lyon means nothing. What you do at Arsenal means something.
I get that. But when you say about him going to Champions League,
when I ever saw him,
you said the word "been." That's the reason why he's been in the Champions League, because when he was at Lyon, he was scoring goals and he was in the Champions League. In terms of this Lacazette, I don't know why he's going Champions League. He's not doing nothing in the Champions League, bro.
He was in the Champions League because Lyon were always a top team. They always won the league. They're always second behind PSG.
And he bags.
That was why he was at the Champions League. They had a quality team. Anderson, Sidney Govou, they had a quality team from top. Lacazette was just a part of that. But towards the end, I mean, he was not, for me. He was just never ever that great. Benzema was a great player at Lyon, and that's the reason why he went to Real Madrid. I just don't get the stick that he's got. Because for me, he's never been a prolific goal scorer. Yeah,
I don't have nothing against him. I just think as an Arsenal fan, I just think as an Arsenal fan, you should be able to. You should, at the end of the day, like, we go to the games, we pay for Sky, we pay for BT, we buy our shirts, we buy merchandise. Like we can criticize players, and I do understand what you're saying.
I just think why wasn't we criticizing him 6?
No, but this is what I'm saying. When you say that he wasn't coming under criticism when he was winning games, I agree with that completely. I understand that, and that is very true. But I just think that is the nature. That is somewhat the nature of football. Now we're losing games, and we're not necessarily scoring goals. I don't think it's absurd to look at the team and say, well, actually, okay, if we conceded 15 goals in 2 games, surely we're going to look at the defense. If we're not scoring goals and scoring goals is a problem for us, then I don't think it's absurd to look at the players that are supposed to put the ball in the back of the net and look at it and say, well, actually, what's going on? And I understand he's physically not up to shape. I understand he's doing a job at Arsenal. But ultimately, for me, 6 goals in 30-odd games at Premier League level is just not good enough. And I stand by the fact that when he was at Lyon, like, for me, he was a goal scorer because I remember the excitement when we signed him. And I remember that season leading up to us signing 37 goals. But even if you take away the 37 goals, for the 4 seasons before we signed him from Lyon, he got 20 plus goals. And like you said, he was a Champions League striker. Like, but for me, I don't have nothing against him. Look, if he wants to leave the club, he leaves the club. I'm not going to lose no sleep. If he wants to play Champions League football, he can play Champions League football. But for me, it's just, when I look at him as a player, very similar to Eddie. It's got to that point now where I could still, don't get me wrong, if we were to go out and sign a big striker like a Darwin Núñez or a Haaland, and we were to keep hold of Lacazette, I wouldn't necessarily lose sleep over that because I know we can't rebuild this squad in one window. I know that for a fact. However, do I want Lacazette to be leading the line for Arsenal next season, mate? I don't even know if I could bring myself. I don't even know if I could bring myself to watch another game. That's going to be the reality of the situation.
I think we all know that's not going to be happening. I think that's what excites us. I think it excites us that we know that we're on the cusp of acquiring basically a whole new squad. Over the next couple of windows, the look of the Arsenal team is going to be totally different, especially looking at how we transform the back 5. It's going to look amazing. But the thing I don't understand with the Lacazette thing is that I think the stat was, I can't remember it exactly, but it's something around this. The stat was from October till December, Martinelli, Odegaard, ESR, and Saka had scored something like 18 goals, and I think Lacazette had contributed 6 assists. And since the end of that period till now, Lacazette's contributed 7 assists, but the others have only scored something like 6 goals or something like that. So it shows that Lacazette's still been doing what he's been doing since the beginning of the season. But the others have stopped scoring. But no one's not saying anything about Odegaard's performances recently, about Saka's, about Martinelli's, and about ESR. And that's because they're so young, and that's because we're enjoying their rise and their development. But at the same time, the 4 of them have dropped off. They've dropped off recently.
They have, yeah.
And then Lacazette comes out and does an interview, so then everyone jumps on Lacazette. So I don't understand why, the chance that Saka missed on Saturday was ridiculous. The 3 chances that we missed against Crystal Palace, 2 for ESR and 1 for Odegaard, and then the 2 chances that Odegaard had against Southampton, like all them are, you get either a point or 3. It's the difference between drawing or losing a game. Not much has been said. I didn't say any of those players get much heat for those moments, but I'm seeing Lacazette getting a lot of heat because he hasn't scored, which he hasn't been scoring all year. Which I just find it, But as I say, it's something that I've seen Arsenal fans do. But
as
a player, I agree with you 100%.
On a side note, though, on a side note, like with the whole Lacazette and Eddie thing, like for me personally. Because I'll have these conversations with you, man, on here in the stream. I have these conversations in the group. I don't put up like negative things about Eddie or anything like that on Twitter or anything like that because I don't really see the point. Obviously, it's a talking point tonight, so we're going to discuss it. But for me, I don't know why they do these interviews. Like I don't know what happened to just no comment or just what happened to these guys just not doing these interviews. Because you know what, I go as far as to say, like, I know it's not like that, but I'm old school. I go as far as to say it's these professionals nowadays, they're unprofessional. Yeah. Because I just think like if you're contracted to Arsenal Football Club, and this is not a criticism of Lacazette or Eddie, it's a criticism of all footballers. You're contracted to a club. People ask you questions about your future. Your response should simply be, I'm focused on this season. I'll talk about my future at the end of the season. You don't start banging on about this club, that conversation, this dinner. It's for me, it's unprofessional. Right. I see it as unprofessional.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just think, like, what do you expect? Do you know what I mean? Like, we can have this conversation here, but at the end of the day, we're not jumping on Twitter and calling these players every name under the sun because we're better than that. But the problem is like you start talking about Champions League football or playing for your next club when, your team's going through somewhat of a sticky patch. Like, what do you expect the reaction to be? It's like, it's not rocket science that conversation is not going to go down well. I just think these players need to just use their common sense a little bit and just say, you know what? I don't know what the future holds. Me and Arteta will sit down in the summer and we'll discuss what the future is for me and Arsenal Football Club. But you go up there and you start spitting bars and all of that, and then you expect like the fallout to not be bad. It's going to be bad, man. Just close your mouth and just say, you know what? You know what I mean? Like when you think about like where we all work in our jobs, yeah. And you've just say like obviously unofficial or officially you've gone to your line manager, you've handed in your resignation. You don't start walking in the staff room saying, "Hey, I'm going, I've left." You don't start doing that. Do you know what I mean? You keep a certain level of professionalism, man. Yeah, and these guys are getting paid 200, 300 grand a week, 50K a week, whatever they're getting paid. They should know that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that they're getting paid well as well, aren't they? They probably got. Just coming to the end of their contracts, maybe they can't see where their money's going to come from in a few weeks' time. So they're like, let's get a quick 100 grand for an interview.
Yeah. Exactly.
Listen, guys, I want to kind of move it on. You both made some really good points, and just to sort of to throw in my sort of 2 pennies. Firstly, the reason they're doing these interviews now is because we're in the middle of a 3-loss period. So the club have allowed them to do it because it's PR and it deflects away from some of the negativity that's being, levied at the likes of Arteta and stuff. And it's very clever PR. It really is. It's one thing Arsenal are very good at is their PR. In terms of Lacazette, you both make good points in terms of, Bobby, you're very right in saying he hasn't been scoring all season, so why all of a sudden are we being critical of him? But at the same time, if you flip that around, just because he hasn't been scoring all season and we haven't sort of been talking about it, even Arteta has come out and said he wants a striker who can score goals.
He did, didn't he?
He's come out and said that publicly. He's admitted it himself. So why shouldn't we expect Lacazette? I'm not saying Lacazette has to bang in a goal every game or a goal every other game, but you would expect your number 9, regardless of what his position is in terms of whether he's doing that sort of hold-up role or whatever, you would expect him to be contributing more than 4 goals in a Premier League season. No matter what the quality, you expect more from him than that. So I don't think it's wrong of us to sort of call him out and say, well, we were expecting more from you. I wasn't expecting Lacazette to be, Premier League's top goal scorer every season, but I'm expecting more than 4 goals from him. Yeah. And that's the reality of it. So anyway, listen, we'll move on. I don't know whether I'm kind of conscious of time, and I know if we go on to this next one, and I know Bobby's gearing himself up, that we could be here all night.
I love G. So I love G.
Of course, man, bro. Of course, man, bro. Always, man. 100.
So, do you just want to get into it? Do you want to get into, and I'm going to say his name, Granit Xhaka?
I'll be honest. I think just from seeing obviously you two interacting and stuff like that and the conversations you've had, I think this one I'm pretty much good to sit out. I'm kind of on the fence with him, if I'll be honest. So I don't mind going first. I don't mind getting into it. Or if we want to save it for Friday night show, it all depends on you two, man.
Bobby, do you want to do it now or do you want to do it on Friday? I don't mind. I'm totally easy. We have done a lot tonight, haven't we? I don't mind. It could just be a quick thing, to be honest, because Xhaka for me is such a big subject. We could just nip it in the bud with a couple of comments each. You know what I mean?
All right, go for it. It's defend Xhaka to me. He's come out last week with his interview, and obviously crying about how much he loves the club and wants to win something with the club, and how he was mistreated by fans, and he had the contract lined up with another club and was ready to go. And I'll very quickly state, and I said to you in the chat in our group chat the other day, I have always publicly said when he's wearing an Arsenal shirt and he's on the pitch, I will back him. I never for once condoned the behaviour of the fans towards him that night at Palace.
100%.
So go ahead. I know you want to defend him. You have a lot of love and a lot of time for Granit Xhaka, so go for it.
I actually had a ticket to that game, and I gave it to my friend. So I actually missed that game, and I would have been there to give him a hug or something. You know what I mean? But I love the interview because I've felt from him what a lot of Arsenal fans don't, and I've felt the way that he's looked because I've seen him on the pitch. I see him when we've been in our bad moments at the end of the Wenger era, when I used to go to games on my own. I'd see him be the only one actually fighting. Him and Monreal, 2 of the most unpopular players, actually fighting for the team. So I could tell he loves the team. He was never. I've always said he was never been my first pick as a centre midfielder. I was really disappointed when we signed him over Kante, but I've kind of grew to love him, and I've kind of grew to love him. I think because of the amount of stick he's got, and I absolutely loved his interview. I think it was long overdue. He should have done it sooner after the thing with the fans, because I know he does get a lot of stick because I followed him on all his socials. Whenever he posts anything, he gets a lot. I read down in the comments because sometimes when you read comments, the comments can be sometimes just as funny as the actual posts. But some of the things that some Arsenal fans actually say to me, just disgusting, just horrible, man. I don't get it. I don't get that thing of abusing someone like that. Even though I'd probably used to do it when I was younger. Now I just, so I can understand why he is as angry as he was about it and his feeling towards some fans. But at the same time, the interview kind of got got to show us the kind of person that he is and the character that he is, and I like his character. That's. It's not that he's not my favourite type of midfielder at all. My type of midfielder is a box-to-box midfielder, a guy that can get around more Patrick Vieira mould. But I've come to appreciate him in the time that he's been. Are you falling asleep there, Stephen? I'm talking about Jackie. He's falling asleep, isn't he? I'll keep it quick.
He's waiting. He's tired. He's waiting for his turn.
I'll keep it quick. Yeah, it was never my first pick as an Arsenal player, as an Arsenal central midfielder. But within the squad that he became, was within. I appreciate his ability. I appreciate his willingness for the badge and the way that he is. And I thought the interview was brilliant. I think it gives people a better insight, or fans. It gives fans a better insight into the man that he is. He's just become a father whilst at Arsenal. You know, he's going to be raising his two little kids in our country. He's going to be part of us. You know what I'm saying? I think that we need to, we should give him and actually, I think I'm feeling a change in the fan base. I'm feeling a massive swing in the fan base because he's not getting as much stick anymore. Even when he got a yellow card the other day, I noticed, and no one didn't really say a thing. He got a yellow card against Villa. He started getting defended, and now when teams get off on VAR decisions, it's if that was Xhaka. So he's starting to get a little liking in the fan base, and I can see that because I've got a family full of Arsenal fans that years ago absolutely hated him, and now it's kind of 50-50. So. And it's all for good, isn't it? At the end of the day, and the fact that he wants to stay, he'll probably end up long term being a bench player. Because if you look at Man City's team, they have a bench full of good players. You know, he'll probably become like our Henderson, where he just plays every now and again, and we have like a starter that's starting every week. And he'll come in when we play Europe games or FA Cup games or whatever. You know, or someone's injured, he'll come in and he'll still be able to do a good job. That's what I see his long term future being at Arsenal if he stays. Which I hope he does, because I think his kind of character is the kind of character you need around the club. Someone that you can kind of rely on. And when you think about all the midfielders that we've bought in the time that he's been there, he's still here. They've all gone. Partey injured yet again. Xhaka had an ACL injury this season, and he came back a month earlier, and he's still in the team. And we actually started playing better when he came back. A lot of Xhaka haters don't want to admit that, but that is a fact. You know what I'm saying? He's loved by managers. He's obviously loved by his teammates. And I think at the end of his career, if he stays there a long time, he'll end up being loved by a lot more Arsenal fans. And that's how it's become for me, to be honest. So that's all I've got to say on him.
Okay. Do you know what? I get where you're coming from with some of your points. I do. And you've been very honest before about the fact that he was never your first choice. You wanted Kante and stuff. Totally get that. For me, the interview, some of it was very good. Some of it for me was crocodile tears, and I didn't believe it for 1 second. I don't buy he loves the club. I get so frustrated with him because he doesn't learn. He is not willing to change his behaviour. And this is what I don't understand, and he's come out and openly admitted he's not going to change how he plays, and for me, a leader has to change and adapt to what is needed. And those going in with those rash challenges, and I'm gonna highlight something you said in one of our, I can't remember if it was in one of our chats or whether it was on Twitter, and I know it was a conversation you were having with G about Patrick Vieira, and you were commenting about how Patrick Vieira got sent off loads for Arsenal and got sent off loads in his career, but he was surrounded with great players. Patrick Vieira got sent off 15 times in his professional career. Three of those 15 times.
Most ever in the Premier League. He's the top of the list. He's above Neil Ruddock, isn't he? I think he's the top, above Neil Ruddock, above Vinnie Jones.
Only 3 of those times was a straight red. The other 12 times were double bookings. Granit Xhaka is 29. Okay.
That probably was worse naivety because you're on a yellow and then you get the second yellow. Do you know what I mean?
Granit Xhaka is 29, so he's still far from the end of his career. He's probably got another 6 years left, let's say. has been sent off in his career 13 times.
Yeah.
6 straight red cards. So, you know,
I love it.
let's look at that. The other thing, and I'm not going to attribute this one to you, but this is what a lot of fans, especially people who come out and they try to defend Granit Xhaka, and they defend how valuable he is to our team. Okay? Now, I know you've talked before, and I've said the same thing. I'm not a massive one for stats. Stats don't mean an awful lot to me, but this is a stat that we can't ignore. Okay? People will talk about how important Granit Xhaka is and how we play better.
I'm curious. I want to know what it is. I want to know what it is.
So we play better as a team when Granit Xhaka is on the pitch. Would you agree with that?
This season, yeah.
Okay, this season. Very important that you said that. Okay, so this season we have played 31 games in the Premier League. Okay, Granit Xhaka has missed 11 of those games. Okay, so missed 11, played 20. Of the 11 games that Granit Xhaka has missed, we have lost 2. So that is a loss percentage of 18%. Yeah? Now, Granit Xhaka is vitally important to our team, and we play better with Granit Xhaka in our team and are a better side with Granit Xhaka in our midfield. Of the 20 games that Granit Xhaka has played in the Premier League this season, we have lost 9. That is a loss percentage of 45% when Granit Xhaka is in the team compared to 18% when he's not in the team. Tell me again how we play better and are a better team with Granit Xhaka in the side.
Come on, you know that's absolute nonsense because there's
It's not nonsense. It's black and white.
There's so many.
We are a better team without Granit Xhaka.
There's so many variables as to why that is the way it is. You know, not talking about injuries to our first 11 and so many other points that we picked up tonight. You know,
but you could do that with any single stat ever.
You've got to ask most Arsenal fans, do you want him in the team or don't you? And that's what it is. I don't think wins and losses this season are going to count to a stature of how the team looked because, as G said, we've lost 3 games, but he also looked back at how many chances we created in those games. So, yeah, okay. Those stats are stats and they're facts, but the fact of the matter is we are a better team when Xhaka's on the pitch. That's probably the
stats clearly show we're not.
And I think it is because you now actually call him Xhaka and not 34, like you always used to before. So that's testament to him himself.
No, I'm doing that for the purposes of this
moving on, man.
Believe me, after tonight, I will go back to calling him 34.
Oh, man. Jeez.
But the simple fact is we are not statistically a better side with him in the team.
The first 3 games of the season probably killed him. And then the last 3 games of the season didn't do him any good, did they?
We went on a 10-game unbeaten run. Granit Xhaka was in that side once, and that was against Spurs when we beat them 3-1, and he went off injured towards the end. That was a 10-game unbeaten run that was our best unbeaten run of the season, and he was only involved in 1 match in there.
Stevens stat padded tonight, boy.
I am sorry, but nobody can tell me we're a better side with Granit Xhaka. And I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. We can make stats read whatever we want.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Any stat. It's like, I've seen stats where people have said that, Granit Xhaka has a better percentage of balls into the final third than anybody else.
That kind of thing.
That's a great stat. But of course he's going to have a better percentage than someone like Saka who's starting further up the pitch. Yeah. Stats will read however you want to make them read.
He's dumb, man.
But for me, statistically, we are a better side without him. And I think we massively need to upgrade on him this summer.
You're going to go with that?
Done. Right. Let's move on.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to sit this one out.
I'm conscious of time.
I leave that one to you two, man.
Let's read these comments, and then we're going to have a quick look at tomorrow night's game before we wrap up. Tom, good to see you, Tom. We are used to him getting booked. Dre Jim, yes, lads. Gets deep with the Arsenal. It does. What games do they, Steve? What are you talking about? Which games do you want me to tell you about? Lacazette is dead.
This is just to give
really,
you some
Stephen's certainly
context.
not messing around tonight. He means
Yeah,
business. Listen, I'll pretend that I come to these things unprepared, but I'm prepared. I am prepared. And do you know why? Because yesterday Bobby said on Twitter, casual fans don't understand. I'm not a casual fan. I understand.
You know that triggered him, innit? That triggered him.
Smoke tonight. I love that, Stephen. But gotta applaud you, son. That's quality.
Oh, wicked.
When him and Party have played together, I'm sure we have done better than without him. Really having a good laugh. Stephen is statistical Steve.
Yeah, man.
Steve Statistical.
Steve.
I've got a chat along to do soon. Shush you, Lee. We're having fun tonight. My stats. Do you know what? Our favorite number 34G and AGM legend Stephen. Thank you. Right, listen. We have a game tomorrow night. It's an important game in the context of our season. If we lose tomorrow night, it'll be the first time since I think 1995 that we've lost 4 games in a row in the Premier League, and that just cannot happen. So we need a result tomorrow night. So, Bobby, I'm going to come to you, and I asked you earlier on to send me through either a predicted 11 for tomorrow night or what you would do if you were in Arteta's shoes. So I'm going to bring up what you sent me through and let you talk us through your team selection and why you've gone for it. Okay?
Yeah.
And you can see that.
Yeah. Well, that's my predicted. Not my predicted. That's what I'd go with. It's not what I think Mikel Arteta will go with. But I think I think he's only lost 1 game against Chelsea, hasn't he? And he's played 4 times and only lost once, and that was the one at the beginning of this season when we had the COVID debacle, and when Lukaku was actually awake, because he hasn't been since that game probably. But yeah, I think I'd go with this because a back 5 I think we're more solid. Still gives Saka a bit of a license to attack because we've got a solid back.
Bobby, just going to pause you there, just for the benefits of anybody that can't see this on their screen if you're watching on your mobile or whatever. You've gone with Ramsdale in goal. You've gone with a back 3 of Gabriel, White and Holding. You've gone for Saka at left wing back, Cedric at right wing back with 34 and Sambi in the midfield. Smith Rowe on the left wing, Odegaard out more towards the right wing, and Martinelli in the middle.
Different.
Sorry, go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, I was going with that as well up top because actually let me go back to the back 3. Obviously Ramsdale back 3. We've kind of gone to that back 3 shape before in games, haven't we? When we're trying to hold on to the 3 points, so it's not something that we can't do. I think Holding can come into the centre. I think I'll probably put Holding on the right, but I would have put Holding in the centre because that would then give White the license to go forward because he can ball carry forward, and Gabriel can do that on the other side as well. But I think Cedric, it gives him license to get forward also, and it also gives Saka license to get forward. He does play well on the left-hand side. We've seen him do that well, and I always know that Saka. I've obviously said before that Saka is a natural left back. He was a left back throughout his whole youth. He was only pushed forward later on in his career. I think Emery was the first one to play him on the wing, but he's always been a natural left back. So it's not something that he can't do. But he can also get forward and attack from there because if you think about modern left backs nowadays, they create and score. And I think he probably actually create more from there than he does when he's playing right wing because he seems to beat people so well sometimes. He seems to not know what he's going to do next. Whereas if he was playing at left back, he'd probably have more of the pitch in front of him. Xhaka and Sambi, I'd just leave them there because they've been okay. They haven't been bad over the last year. I've been a bit disappointed with Sambi Lokonga. I thought he'd be a lot better, but I think that was probably because Partey's been doing so well. I think it's not that I've been disappointed at Sambi. It's just that he's not the same level as what he's replacing. So there's no hardship on him. He's just not Partey, is he? Well, what the recent Partey was. But leave him there with a back 3 behind him might be a bit more solid, give him less responsibility defensively. And then the front three kind of speak for themselves. They've all had good moments this season, but I think it's time, 7 games to go, for them to wake up. And I think this could be a way for them to be giving them, because it seems like when they play in our normal Mikel's structure, that they have specific jobs that they have to do. Whereas I think in this one, the back 5 defend, and them 3 could kind of go and do what they need to do themselves, you know. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see Martinelli through the middle as well, just to see what it's like. Even though I don't think he'll do this at all, but I think it'd be interesting to start it like that. Yeah. And I think that personally, I don't think that we're going to win the game, because the way that Chelsea have been playing recently, they just seem to have turned their form up again at the wrong time. Because obviously they're playing against us, but yeah, anything can happen. It's the way at Stamford Bridge, isn't it? So anything can happen.
Absolutely. So you guys in the chat, anything you would change about this lineup? What would you do? And as well as that, throw in your score predictions. G, your thoughts if we see that lineup tomorrow night?
Look, I think Bobby's got it bang on. I think Arteta needs to mix it up. He needs to do something different. You know, we're coming off the back of 3, you know, decent performances, but not great results. Obviously, because we've just not taken our chances, not clinical enough. But I just think even defensively, we've not looked at our best, you know, recently. And obviously, when you look at the absence of KT, particularly on the left, I said it as soon as KT went injured. I said the only player I can trust in that position is Saka. That's the player I want to see. And I know a lot of people are saying, but what we lose in terms of like going forward, I understand that, but I feel like a lot of what we've done well this season has been built on having a solid defense. I think that's been our foundation, and I think the only way we're gonna, you know, pick up points and see out, you know, games and victories this season is if defensively we're strong. And I think we've somewhat lost that in recent weeks and in recent games, and I think we need to get that back. And if that means changing our shape and going to a back 5, then we need to do it. Whether or not Arteta will do it or not, we all know this is probably not going to happen. But I think this formation and this personnel that Bobby's put together here makes perfect sense. We know Holding can come in and do a job. We've played this back 5 very successfully, particularly in our FA Cup run when Arteta first, you know, took over. So, and we've even got better players now to even, you know, kind of put this into practice. So, I would be very pleased if I saw that. You know, Ramsdale, the back 5, Cedric and Saka on the wings. And then obviously I think we've got very limited options in terms of midfield with Sambi and Xhaka. So yeah, I can't see any difference there. It's a very interesting front 3. Again, I can't see it happening. I can't see him picking that front 3. But yeah, if I saw that lineup, I would say, you know what? You know, he's trying something new. He's trying something different. We're playing a very good Chelsea side. A very good Chelsea side. Yes, they got beat by Brentford 4-1 at home. You get results like that in the Premier League. But for spells against Real Madrid, I tell you, that was some game. And if it wasn't for, you know, inspired performances like the likes of Modric and Benzema, who's an absolute monster this season, they would have gone through, because for large parts of that game, they were a better side. And if that type of Chelsea turns up tomorrow night at Stamford Bridge, then we're going to be in for one hell of a game. So it's going to be a very, very tough fixture. But yeah, I would like to see Arteta change it up, mix it up, do something different. But yeah, I'm happy with the lineup. If I see that, I'd be happy. But I have to admit, I'm very concerned about tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously their performances against Madrid, you kind of got to look past, because, I mean, for me, there's an argument that Benzema right now is the best player in the world. I know there's people that may disagree, but for me, I think it's hard to sort of look past them in terms of, you know, Ballon d'Or and things like that this year, because I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. And you know how, I mean, G, you know how much it breaks my heart that we never got Benzema.
I know. Favorite of yours.
Yeah. I mean, the lineup there that you've put together probably comes back to what I said earlier on. You know, predictability with inferior players is killing us.
Yeah.
For me, I much as I've never been a massive fan of a back 3, I think, you know, you match up against Chelsea, they play a 3 at the back, you know. It's a good shout, and it changes things up a bit. Whether we'll do it or not, it remains to be seen. I kind of struggle to see Arteta doing it. I think he is, as I said earlier on, he's stubborn and he likes to play his way. And it's sort of more the players have to educate themselves to play how he wants them to play rather than him changing it to suit what we have. So it'll be interesting. I'll get your score predictions from you in a wee sec. I just want to read out some of these comments. Where have we got to? GK, I've been saying the back three as well, but a bit different. Believe Arteta going to stick with his current system as well, sadly. Can see it. ESR and Odegaard don't take on players enough for me like Saka. Tom, let's be honest, the fans are just there now for the socials. It's going to be 6th place, but at least we can all meet up in the pub before and after and hope for the win with Eddie up front. GK, ESR plays safe, turns pass back. I mean, for me, and I've said before, I think Smith Rowe's a better player coming off the bench. I do genuinely. I don't think he's far enough on his development. I think he's going to be a brilliant player, but I think Arsenal fans have bigged him up too much, and they're so convinced that he's a world-class player already, but he's not. He's not that far into his development. He's still got so much more to go. And right now, for me, he's a better impact sub than he is a starter. Tom, I've enjoyed it more watching the women's games. I think a lot of people have at the minute.
Yeah.
GK, similar system, just a 3-1-4-2. GK go for goals and overload their final third. Lee, think it's an interesting shout with 5 at the back, something to think about. GK, Odegaard and ESR into those advanced positions play safe at times. Yeah. Joe, how are you? Don't know about UG. I think Ben White been very poor lately. Any thoughts, G?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think a lot of the players have really kind of excelled. But yeah, I have said in the show, defensively, I don't think we look anywhere near as watertight as we did at particular parts of the season. I wouldn't necessarily say just Ben White, but I just think defensively we're just not as good as we've been recently. But yeah, there have been moments when he's looked shaky.
I'll be honest, I've sort of criticised Ben White a wee bit recently. But I think him and Gabriel both have been a wee bit shaky over the last few games.
I don't even feel like Ramsdale's been at his best either, personally.
GK Joseph didn't want Ben White from day one. I knew we overpaid for him. But oh well, we don't seem to learn splashing on these players. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll come on to that more sort of towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
As I say, for our end of season review, I know I'm going to probably rattle a few feathers with some of the things I have to say about our squad. GK, Pepe, Oba, Laka, Ben White, Xhaka have not turned out good signings for the buck we spent.
On those players.
Yeah, I would agree with that comment.
You're talking 70, 60, 50, 35. That's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money.
None of them have kind of lived up to the expectation. Mustafi, etc. Yeah,
he was expensive, innit? it? Weren't you out 30 mil, Mustafi?
Yeah, but 32, I think.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't set back in a back three, high press from the whistle, and get at the back line, press that midfield. Okay, so score predictions. Bobby, I know you've said that you don't fancy us to win tomorrow night. What is your thoughts? What do you think is going to be the score?
I think it's going to be one of those games that starts really lively. I think that Chelsea are going to beat us. I've just got this feeling they're going to beat us tomorrow. I don't know why. I don't normally feel like this before games, but I'm not feeling confident at all. Just a clash of styles. And touching on what you said, Stephen, about I don't think Arteta doesn't like to change his change his way, adapt his way to what the other manager's doing. Just like the way we played against Brighton, basically. Brighton, even though we created chances, I think Potter just basically outdone Arteta, and I think Tuchel's going to do the same. Yeah, I can see us losing like 3-1 or something. I can't. Well, actually, I can't see us scoring, to be honest, because we haven't looked like scoring recently.
So give me your score prediction, because we're going to use it as our charity bet.
2-0 Chelsea.
2-0 to Chelsea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. G.
You know what? It's horrible, but I said it from the get go. Like I said from back when we lost Katie and Partey, I thought top four was gone. I honestly didn't want to believe that the last 3 games were going to go as badly as they did in terms of results. But yeah, I've been saying it ever since. I said it in our WhatsApp, chats. You see me, like my mood has been very different since the last 3 defeats. So, and I personally can't see us getting a victory tomorrow. I can't see us getting any points. And I think the first time ever on Cannon Chatter, I'm gonna have to agree with Bobby. And I'm gonna agree with Bobby not only on the result but also the scoreline. I think they will beat us convincingly 2-0 tomorrow night.
Okay. So the odds on 2-0 are 15-2. So off the top of my head, that would return 758.50, if that's correct. So
I've been wrong with my predictions, so let's hope I'm wrong with this one. There's a little bit of reverse psychology with my. I'm going to just be going to this game really miserable and not really confident like I've been with the last 3 wins, and see whether that reverse psychology works.
I'm going to say, I hope you're wrong from Arsenal's point of view, but if we're going to lose, I hope we'll lose 2-0, because at least then we'll get some money for the charity.
Yeah.
So we'll look at it that way. I'll get Lottie's prediction tomorrow when I speak to her. I'm going to say, because I can't really see us scoring an awful lot of goals, I'm going to go 1-1. As I said earlier on, I don't know why, I just have a wee feeling we might get a draw. But I can't see us scoring an awful lot of goals, so I'm going to have to go with a 1-1 draw.
Cool.
So let's have a wee quick flick of some of these comments. And while I do that, what I will say is it's last orders at the bar. So get your final questions or comments in before we close up for the night. Where have we got to? Right. Riddy is going for a 2-2 draw. GK saying hello to Riddy. GK said, I said a draw as well. I'm optimistic, honestly, especially if Arteta changes system and takes a risk. Really saying with GK. Lee, Chelsea 2, Arsenal 3, Kanu hat-trick.
What a hat-trick that was. Jeez.
Really, yes, Lee would love Eddie to be our Kanu tomorrow night. Jimmy is going 55-1 for his usual, which is 3-0 the Arsenal.
Wow.
That's confident, Jimmy. I'm not sure how much you actually believe that one, but you know what? Stick the bet on. Really, no, Bobby, if you're wrong, it will be 6-0. And really, do you think there will be pressure on Arteta if we lose badly? Bobby, do you think there'll be pressure on Arteta if we lose badly tomorrow night?
No, there's no pressure on that. I don't think there's no pressure on Arteta. I think he's there for the long haul. I think they can see something in him. The amount of changes that he's already made, it's kind of clear where we're heading as a club with him as manager. So yeah, I think once he's got his squad of players that he acquired, and we're still mid-table or whatever, then get rid of him. But no, man, I'm excited. I think I'm very excited to where we're heading.
Okay. GK, speaking of ESR, where do you think his position best suited? being I think his off the ball movement and work rate makes him a potential good striker. G?
Not for me. Not for me at all. I'm really not sure where his best position is going to be, because I know he's kind of played in, number 10 role, kind of played off, on the left wing. There's even been times when he's played in a kind of number 8 role beside Partey in that midfield. He seems to, for me, if I'm from what I can remember in terms of his performances and his better performances when he's kind of come on as an impact sub and stuff, it seems like his best position is playing in off the left. That seems to be where, when I think of ESR within the current Arsenal team, I see him playing on the left wing. I don't see him in a number 10 position. I don't see him as a number 8. I see him playing on the left. But that's just my opinion.
Okay.
For me. Sorry to butt in, Stephen, but I'm the same as what Stephen was saying before. He gets a lot of hype. ESR does, but personally, I don't think his window's very high either. I don't think he's going to go on to be I could make the only role I could see ESR being is actually the number 10. But for the number 10, you have to be quite special. And
yeah,
can he become that? Maybe he can, but I don't think he's fast enough to be a winger. And I don't think he's strong enough to be a midfielder. He's definitely not a number 9. He's not a striker. I don't know why GK thinks that. I've not seen any striking assets. Do you remember when he played false 9 against Villarreal when we went out of the Europa League? He was anonymous that game. He's actually been anonymous when he starts now as a youth. And I've touched on the point that Stephen made, that I think that he's still a boy. He's still trying to grow into his man's body. And when he grows into his man body, then we'll see the kind of player that he actually is, whether he's stronger, whether he's faster, whether he's got a bit more goal. Because it doesn't actually even look to me to look like the kind of player that sees a pass like a number 10 does, because he doesn't create any chances. He's more a dribbler. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops over the next.
I think for me, his strength is coming on against a tired defence and driving at them with the ball.
Yeah,
because I get what you're saying. He is quite skillful though with the ball at his feet, and he can move in those sort of tick out, and he can go past people when they're tired. And that's the difference, is when he's going at them at the start of the match when they're fresh. He can't go past them. It's when he's coming on against tired legs and he's got that little burst of pace. It's not continual pace, it's a little burst of pace to go past. He can do that well, and that's where he's getting his goals, is he's going past. And if you look at a lot of his goals this season, they've been ones where he has attacked the defence on his own and dribbled past it and got the goal. It's not that he's necessarily getting into great positions, and I don't think he has that as a striker. No. So for me, not at the minute. It may be something he can develop into. But I think Martinelli, if you're going to look at any of those players, Martinelli's better suited to developing into that role. I still don't think Martinelli's ready for it, but I think he's got more potential to develop into that role. GK, because technically haven't seen much from him, but he knows where to get the goal. So his goal threat is needed. Reason I would start him. Just don't think he offers much in the wing versus Martinelli, even though he doesn't score or create often. And really, is ESR physically strong enough to be a forward? Don't think so. But then that goes back to what Bobby's just said. When he grows into his man body, he may well be a bit stronger. You look at Martinelli, and the difference in Martinelli's physique over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. He has bulked up an awful lot, and you need that in the Premier League. You're not playing against Sunday League pub defenders here. You're playing against big, tough, physical men. And if you don't have the strength, you're not going to cut it. Yeah. And it's where I think as well Eddie suffers, is that Eddie's a bit lightweight.
He's slender.
And he doesn't really have that. But anyway, that kind of wraps things up for tonight. Thank you so much, gents, for your time. And I know we've been on sort of longer than we planned. But I did warn everybody earlier on that, the three of us like to talk, so this was probably going to drag on for a bit. Just to let everybody know, we will be back tomorrow night with a chat along. Lee is going to be hosting, and I think he's got Sam potentially lined up to join him, and potentially G if he can free himself up, and myself possibly in the second half. I might try and jump on. We'll see how things go. But join us for that. I know he'll be on from, I think he had said to me earlier on, about 7:30 for the 7:45 kickoff. So please, if you are watching the match at home, turn the commentary off and flick on your phone or flick on your computer and join us in the chat along and have a bit of banter with Lee and Sam and whoever else is about. Aside from that, you're back later on the week hosting Last Orders.
Last Orders. So yeah, Last Orders will definitely be taking place either Thursday or Friday. The reason why I say Thursday potentially is because I might have some other kind of family commitments on the Friday, but haven't yet been confirmed. So either way it's happening, it will either happen Thursday or Friday. But yeah, we'll be back 9 p.m. Thursday or Friday for Last Orders.
Brilliant. Lottie will be back on Friday evening at 7:30, I believe, with a review of the Chelsea FA Cup semi-final and a preview of the Everton game. Then they'll be back on Sunday with a chat along for the Everton game. And potentially I might, if I can get freed up on Saturday, I might do a chat along on Saturday for the United game. So keep an eye out for that. So yeah, could be a lot of shows coming up. Keep tuned in, keep supporting us. We really appreciate it. If you haven't, make sure and hit the like button and drop a wee subscription if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Bobby, any last comments tonight?
No, it's been good. It's been good. I was saying today that it feels like a few weeks since we've done a stream. So yeah, man, it's been good. It's been nice to talk about it and dust a few of the cobwebs off from the last few games, because it's been a tiresome time for us Gooners, hasn't it, man? You know what I mean? For different reasons, but yeah, man, this has been nice. It's been good to get it all out there and move on to hopefully what are going to be more exciting and happier times, which start tomorrow night against Chelsea.
Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. G, any final words?
Yeah, just good to be back after the Easter break. Nice to have so many people tune in tonight. So just thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. Great to be obviously on the stream with both of you. Just looking forward to Chelsea. I'm a little bit excited, a little bit nervous, kind of dreading it, mixed emotions really. So we'll just see how that goes. I'm definitely going to try and jump on at some point tomorrow, whether it be the first or the second half. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed the chat, even though I got a little bit heated at moments, but it's all love. It's all love. But yeah, no, I loved it. So yeah, we'll be back. If not tomorrow, I'll be back on Thursday or Friday. So yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. You know what? It's all good to have these conversations and share opinions. I'm just going to read these final couple of comments and then we're going to call it a day. So really massive congrats to former gunner Giovanni Van Bronckhorst on reaching a cup final and a Europa semis up there in Scotland with Rangers. GK, appreciate the response. Do you know what? We always say that if people take the time to put comments in, we will do our best to take the time to read them out. And that's what we're all about, the Cannon Chatter family. Really, thanks guys, great stuff. Come on, you Gunners. GK, I have good feeling about tomorrow. Anyway, evening, fellas, evening. On that, yeah, I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow night. I'm not massively confident, but I think we can get something and start to rebuild the end of the season. As I say, join Lee at 7:30 for the chat along. And other than that, have a good evening. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep chatting.
Arsenal